How's it going, guys? It's your boy PPenny back at it again with another video. This time I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm going to be talking about the coronavirus. You probably heard it on the news. There's a whole bunch of stir about it, and I'm gonna give you all kind of like my take on it. I have a degree in biology with concentration in immunology and microbiology, so I'm gonna give you the deep cuts of viruses and whatnot. So but it's not just gonna be your normal PSA. It's your boy PPenny, so we're gonna have to have some gameplay in here, and what better game to play while we're discussing this thing than your very own coronavirus simulator. So we're playing Plague Inc. I used to play this game quite a bit, and we're going to be playing it, and as I'm playing it, I'm going to be giving you the answers to some of the biggest questions people are having about what is going on with the coronavirus. Let me put it that way. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to play a game. We're going to play, we're going to keep it topical, of course. Costs of evolve don't increase. We're just going to use that. We're just going to do that, and we're going to continue. I'm going to do it on normal. Because, let's get real, no one wants to play this on brutal. Look at that. I completely forgot about that. That was my last one. So, coronavirus. Alright, so we're going to start this out in good old Wuhan, technically. Let me give you the quick one too. So basically, what is a virus? A virus is basically a microscopic particle that's strictly parasitic in nature. Viruses can exist without a host, but they cannot replicate without a host. For that, they need to basically inject themselves into bacterial cells or human cells to find ways of replicating their structures and their proteins and all this. So all viruses have certain structures to them. They have certain parts. Most of them have two of these structures, but some species of virus have a third structure as well. These three structures being, they have genetic material, which in viruses can come in the form of RNA or DNA. They have a casing that they usually have when they're not infecting bacterial or eukaryotic cells, known as a capsid, which is kind of like a small capsule. It's a protective coating. And then they have, some viruses have a lipid envelope, which is kind of like an extra protective layer that prevents them from being digested by immunological cells. So viruses spread a few different ways. They can spread through touch. They can spread through saliva exchange. They can spread through sexual contact. They can spread through coughing, sneezing, eating, and drinking contaminated food and water. And they can spread through interaction with fomites and vectors. Fomites and vectors are ways in which the virus can kind of move independently from the host. So we have 32 DNA points, and I think I'm going to go ahead and give it some symptoms. So with that being said, what is the coronavirus? It's important to realize that the coronavirus isn't just one strain or species of virus. Coronavirus is actually a family of viruses known as Coronaviridae. Currently, family Coronaviridae has 17 different strains within it, 10 of which primarily affect animals, and 7 of which that affect humans. And the coronavirus family isn't really a new thing. Coronaviruses have existed since about 8,000 BCE. So they've been around for a while. But the reason why you're here is because of a very particular strain of coronavirus known as 2019 nCoV. nCoV standing for novel coronavirus. Novel meaning it's the newest of the coronaviruses. It has also been referred to by the media as the Wuhan virus because Wuhan, China is where it is assumed to have sprung up into human hosts. Alright, we're starting to get some traction here. Typically with Plague Inc., I like to infect as many people as I can with staying underneath the radar, and that means keeping my lethality low, but my infectivity and severity relatively low. Severity would be like something where it's like, oh damn, he's really sick. And actually that kind of rings true for most viruses. In layman's terms, a good virus is one that has very high infectivity but almost no severity and no lethality because it's parasitic. Viruses are parasitic, so if the host dies, then the parasite also dies. You can usually tell if a virus is a bad virus by whether or not it kills its host or not. Bad virus being one that kills its host before it has a chance to infect others. So one of the questions people are asking about the current novel strain of coronavirus 2019 nCoV, which I'm probably just going to refer to as nCoV because it's easier, is where did it come from? And for the most part, that's kind of unknown. It's been almost agreed upon that the virus came from Wuhan, China, because that's where most of the cases began to spring up. But where exactly it came from a genetic standpoint, is kind of unknown. One of the explanations that people have come up with the origin of the Wuhan virus is the consumption of bats, which is definitely a possibility. So there are two other strains of coronavirus that have originated in bats, but have crossed over the species boundary into humans and have begun to infect and affect humans in a negative way. And those two are SARS, SARS-CoV, SARS coronavirus, and MERS-CoV, MERS coronavirus, which has originated in the Middle East, both resulting in respiratory issues for the hosts. So it's not super far-fetched to believe that this strain of coronavirus 2019 nCoV is directly related to the consumption of bats. It's odd, yeah, but it is possible. A lot of viruses are what is known as species specific, meaning that they only affect one particular type of species. That, or they only affect one type of species a certain way. Both the avian flu and swine flu were essentially both examples of viruses that began in one particular species, one of them being avians and the other one being pigs. And at some point, the virus began to be able to replicate into human hosts. And once the virus has adapted itself to another special host, it can then be transmitted to other members of that species. So once the avian flu and swine flu became compatible with humans, then human-to-human infection was possible. And that's kind of where we're at with nCoV. Alright, we're doing pretty good here. I'm just taking my time. I think I am going to I'm gonna take out nausea, but I'm going to add transmission via air and transmission via water, because that is what viruses like. Speaking of transmission, one of the questions that people are asking about the novel coronavirus strain is, how does it spread? Well, three of the main ways in which the coronavirus spread from person to person is coughing, sneezing, and the creation of fomites. That is basically coughing and sneezing on inanimate objects without disinfecting them. So the main problem with this game that I've always found is infection of New Guinea, New Zealand, the Caribbean, Madagascar, and Greenland, mostly because of their lack of airports. So you really got to push the water transmission, otherwise you're not going to get on those boats. I think I am going to go ahead and get coughing and sneezing for meme purposes, basically. The issue being, at this point, we're starting to get noticed. But I think that's okay, because I should have enough points to put into my genetic hardening. I'm gonna start really getting these out of reach countries as quickly as possible before they start closing down their ports. Alright, we got Greenland. I'm gonna give myself cold resistance, and I'm not gonna give myself viral instability just yet, because there's a good chance I'm gonna start getting symptoms that are gonna kill people. Oh my god. Yeah, it'd be like that. So we have 5 countries that need to be infected. All of them are in Africa except for Sweden. So one other question a lot of people are asking are, what are the symptoms? What are the main symptoms of the coronavirus should you have it? And honestly, the symptoms of coronavirus kind of depend. Kind of in the same way that people will get bad flus and they'll get good flus, even though there's a chance you have the same strain. But for the most part, the 3 most common symptoms of the coronavirus are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. And the symptoms of the coronavirus typically show up from 2 to 14 days after exposure to someone who may or may not have had it. So keep that in mind as far as knowledge of symptoms go. One thing I think it is very important to discuss is that long-term fomites for the coronavirus don't really exist. So say you ordered something from China and you have a concern that the coronavirus is coming along with that package. Isn't typically the case with coronavirus. It doesn't have the temperature range. Isn't really the case. Most viruses don't do well on fomites for long terms. Alright, I think I still don't have the whole world infected. That's kind of wild. But we're going to go ahead and give coronavirus immune suppression. Well, no, I think we're just going to stick with the pulmonary stuff. So this strain of coronavirus mostly affects the pulmonary systems. I do have enough for total organ failure, but that's not really realistic because that doesn't exist with the coronavirus. So we're just going to see. If it mutates, I'm not going to stop it. Alright, I think that's the whole world. Nope, I still need Morocco. So cool. Oh shit. Well, I guess it be what it be. So while we're waiting for this coronavirus to completely eradicate all human life, I think it's fair that I talk about the treatment and prevention aspect of the disease. So at the moment, there is no preventative measure nor no treatment for this 2019 nCoV strain of coronavirus. But, big but, there are 5 projects going on right now. 5 groups and organizations that are currently dedicating themselves to the creation of a vaccine. I'm going to go ahead and list them off just in case y'all think I'm lying. So the Chinese Center for Disease Control and Prevention is working on a vaccine. as well as the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness Innovations, and the National Institute of Health, the University of Queensland, and the International Vaccine Center are all working on vaccines for this particular strain of coronavirus. All right, more people are getting infected than dying. That's the ideal. And real quick, before this virus ends up wiping out humanity, I want to quickly talk about the mortality rate of the coronavirus strain. So there's a lot of hullabaloo about how many people are actually dying from this disease. And it, like I said before, with the symptoms, it depends. People with weaker immune systems are more prone to acute to severe pulmonary infections and disorders. But the number I keep seeing thrown around as far as the mortality rate for this strain of coronavirus is 4%, which is a lot, yeah, as far as viruses go. But to put that into perspective, the flu, your typical seasonal flu, has a mortality rate of about 0.01%. So it is quite a bit more than that. And I think that's kind of one of the things that people are really talking about as far as coronaviruses versus the flu. But I will say that the 2014 to 2016 Ebola outbreak, that novel strain of Ebola had a 50 to 90% mortality rate, which is a lot. That's a bad virus right there, because the purpose of the virus is to live on long enough to infect other hosts. And rabies, left untreated, has a 100% mortality rate, which is the worst. It's about as bad as you could get. So with that in mind and with that in perspective, I just would like you to think about how bad 4% really is, especially considering you can, if you just take preventative measures to not even get the virus, you're pretty much well off. So it looks like we're doing pretty well in West Africa. The cure's only at 51%. So that's cool. It's kind of neat because this game was kind of long dead. Apparently it's the most downloaded game in both the United States and China right now, which is pretty wild. So because we're doing so well here, I think I'm going to up our infectivity just a tick, 68% and kind of climbing. Angle is giving me a hard time. The only 3 countries that are not completely infected are Angola, Canada, and Botswana. 70% cure. Angola's still taking its sweet time. Are good in Angola, but I don't know if we're going to be okay in Canada. Canada is still... Oh, Lord. We're still kind of going up a little bit. We're still peaking. Angola's good. Canada, almost there. So close, my boy. Awesome. Very good. Now we will evolve. Total organ failure and coma. Nice. So obviously this is not the goal, right? But it's just kind of like a fun way of explaining what we're dealing with here. Now that we've kind of destroyed all Earth, all of the humanity on Earth, I would just like to say what you should do if you believe that you are in fact sick with the coronavirus. You should basically act as if you had the flu. Stay home unless you are so ill or for some reason you need to get medical assistance at a hospital. But for the most part, don't use public transportation. Try and isolate yourself from as many people as you can, family included. A face mask helps. If you do need to go to the hospital for some sort of medical assistance, try and call ahead. That way you're not spending this amount of time in a waiting room for your appointment, being around people who are already in the hospital for something. It may not necessarily be infection related. It may be something that you don't want coupled with another sickness. Be sure to wash your hands with soap and water. Cover up all coughs and all sneezes with your elbow, not your hands, because if you shake someone's hands right after you've covered up a sneeze, then they're now sick. And also avoid contact with pets and other animals. If this strain of coronavirus really did come from an interaction between humans and bats, then it really isn't that far-fetched to believe that you could infect other animals, and then these animals could end up getting sick, or at least carrying the virus to another human, especially with dogs, cats, and other pets that tend to get pet often. Now that we've successfully steered coronavirus into destroying the earth, I would just like to say all of the statistics that I've provided will be in the description below. Most of them are from the CDC's website on the 2019 nCoV strain of coronavirus, but if I took some information not from there, I will have the research paper down in the description below. And I will also have a link to the CDC's website where they will give out any future updates on the disease itself. But stay healthy. Just cover up. Don't sneeze on anybody. Don't cough on anybody. And just do what you can. This has been PPenny Explains the Coronavirus while playing Plague Inc. If you enjoyed the video, be sure and leave me a like and subscribe, and comment down below if you like the information I gave you or if I left something out. But that's pretty much it. PPenny out.